So I got a Hymer shell here, and I bought a bunch of windows, and now I'm cutting the windows a little bit bigger as the holes are just a little bit smaller. And this piece here, the piece that I cut out for there, I'll be able to use as a patch to patch that area up around that small window, and I'll bring that halfway in between. And then I got some ones from the front. And then I'm just finishing cutting the hole for this window to go in there. And I'm just going to urethane them in. And I got a tonneau cover that's going to cover the front part of this opening. And then I'm going to fix that crack right there and close the back end in. But I'm going to put a frame around the outside of this so that it gives it some integrity. And these here are the orange things, are the rails. And I got some leaf springs there. That's the axle. I drilled a hole in there so that I can push that 1/4 inch thick 2.5 inch pipe in there and weld it around there, and I'll put some gussets in here to give it more added strength this way. And then I'll run another strut off of the end of this onto the tube and over onto this tube. So that'll give it some real triangulation for strength. And then these bearings here, they'll get welded onto the end of the tube. I got an arm on there, but I think I'm gonna cut that off and just weld it directly to the end of the tube. So that'll be all nice and strong. There's the shackle I'll weld onto that orange piece. This is all recycled material. This is a water pipe of a 150-year-old house. It's 1/4 inch wall. This is one of those jack posts to go under a beam in your basement, and then you close it in. It's got a big nut on the top of it to jack the little foot up to hold the ceiling up. It's really thick. It'll make a great 3/16. It'll make a great axle. So yeah, now I'm gonna prep this out right here and get this all squared off so it's nice and square. I drilled a hole in there with a drill press and a hole saw, and I'm gonna tuck that in there and weld that up and make that sturdy. Perfect right there. I'm going to weld it right there. Yep, look at that, eh? Moved. It actually moved. The weld pulled it and moved. There we go. Now, is that gonna slice? That's good. Get my welding helmet. Blast that on there. Okay, so I measured up 36 inches right there. Same thing to the other side. So I'm going to roughly grind that much paint off so I can weld it. On stone or something. From the end of the pipe, 36 inches. And then we'll bolt. Okay, so I think I'm going to weld it like that. So I'm going to weld the hell out of that, make sure that's very strong. Nice day working outside on the lawn. So I got the frame welded and I found some U-bolts and made some channel brackets to hold the U-bolts in the bottom, and put some cross pieces in here. So we got a class 2 3,500 pound trailer hitch plug welded onto the end of two 1.5 inch square tubing, 3/16 wall welded to 1/4 inch 2 1/4 pipe, and I bought a jack for it. And this gizmo right here, I don't know what it is. I'm just going to cut it off, that bar. I'm going to put some ears on the ends of these two pipes and put it through that so it pivots at this point. And then I'm going to drill some holes with the hole saw in the front there and weld it onto that piece of angle iron. Same thing over there. So basically the top frame jumps up and down on the springs, on the leaf springs, and it pivots all the way up here. This acts as a tongue support by triangulating it to the trailer, and it also is a pivot point for the bed of the trailer to go straight up and down when it goes over a bump. And I got these old school Cavalier, aluminum Cavalier rims. I'm going to sandblast them. and I'll paint them up. I might lose the Chevy emblem and just fill it in and make it generic. But basically that's it. I got it welded up, and that's the wheelbase of the bottom of the trailer, and the tongue sticks out 4 feet from the front of the trailer, from the front of the camper. So that little pointy nose there on the front of the cam, the 4 feet comes out from there. So after I get this welded up, I get some more welding gas. I'm going to sand this down really good, take the rims off, sandblast the rims, and I'm going to paint this frame black. And once it's painted, then I can put that bottom shell on it. And once that's on and bolted through the frame here, all the way around, I'm going to bolt it right through the floor with carriage bolts all the way around. And then I'm going to set this shell on top and start putting the windows in it. And once the windows are in, then I want to build an angle iron frame that goes all the way around this opening. Another piece that goes across here where the hinge is going to be. And then all the way up to the front and around the outside perimeter. And then I'll probably, to support this frame and this roof here, because it's kind of flimsy, right? So once that's supported, it'll be like a table frame that'll need some legs. So what I'll do is I'll make a piece fit this straight, and then it goes on this little curve, 90 degrees or 87 degrees, and then it goes straight down to the middle of the trailer, and then it tilts kind of back in a little bit to the bottom, because the sides are not they're not perfectly straight up and down. They're kind of on an angle. And then I'll do a little cut and a bend, and then I'll make the piece of angle iron sit right inside, maybe on the back side of that wheel well there, and come in, pivot there, and then come in there, and then I'll bolt it through the floor there, and maybe up here somewhere, and then behind that wheel well, and then maybe on this side of the doorway I'll put a piece of angle iron right up, so that'll give the doorway some support as well. And then that'll be sufficient enough that I can turn this tonneau cover here. I'll put a rubber around the edge of it all the way around after I fix the boo-boos with some fiberglass cloth and some resin. I'm going to cut this lip off here because it sits high and this is low. So I'm going to cut this off so it's the same height right there. And then I got a rubber that goes all the way around there, and it kind of goes onto the lip and then has a little pillow on the bottom. And with the weight of this lid, it'll actually push real hard on the seal on the surface here real well. And this will pivot up, to like there or whatever. And that will give you ceiling height in the kitchen. And then in the back, well, that will be where you sit down and where you sleep, because that'll be the bed and the sitting area, unless I put a sitting area up there. So yeah, and then I got this big huge jack here. I think it's from a pickup truck or something. But I'm gonna weld it. A piece of material right here, and then when you extend it, that'll stabilize the trailer at the back. So it'll kind of like have that front stabilizer jack right there. It'll have that for the 2 tires, and then it'll have this one back here. And when they're all cranked down, I think that should be pretty stable. Shouldn't jump around too much. So this is the piece of material that I cut out of that opening that I can use to patch this up to make that window fit. So what I'll do is I'll just bevel the edge with the flat wheel on the grinder, and do the same thing for the opening, and then clamp it, and then Put a couple tabs on it here and there with some fiberglass cloth and resin, let it harden, and that'll position it, and then fill in the rest of the holes in between where the clamps were. And then sand it smooth and put a little bit of body filler material on it, and a little epoxy primer or some urethane primer, and then cut the window to size again and stick it in. And these wheel bearings are sealed bearings, automotive grade. Like, they're probably better than trailer bearings, because they are made for an automobile. Had a little heavier duty, more weight on them. So here's how I did the pivoting thing. I took a piece of DOM, welded the pipe onto the end of it, inside a pipe, and I put a brass bushing inside there. So I'm going to drill a hole and put a grease fitting on that, and that'll get grease. But basically I notched it there and welded it in, both sides. So there we go, we got a jack on the bottom of it welded there. And it's pretty sturdy. It's not going to break off or anything. Put another cross piece of angle iron right there, just kind of stabilize things a little better. Once this is all bolted to the bottom of the trailer, the trailer floor is like 1.25 inches thick. We'll go take a look at that. 1 1/8 inches thick. 1 1/8 inches. Okay, so I'm gonna mask that up, the crank, and pull the wheels off of it. And then I'm gonna sand this orange paint here and go over that tube right there a little bit with some 120. And this rusty tube here, it'll give the galvanized pipe a scratch. Give that paint a scratch there. Wind this jack down, blow it off good, get rid of all the mud. Blow away all the shavings. And I'm gonna paint this black. So I think I'm gonna get some stands and put it up on stands, pull the wheels off so that I don't get any paint all over the wheels. Even though I'm going to sandblast them, it won't matter. I'm just going to take them off anyways. And there she is, all shiny black. All the scrap metal doesn't look like scrap metal anymore. So I put the bottom half onto the trailer. I slid the trailer underneath while I was sitting up on tires, skidded it off onto my new trailer frame. And then I made a prop rod for the nose, and I laid the cap right directly beside the bottom. And then I put a prop rod on the very nose of the trailer and tipped it up, and then just grabbed the back and walked it over onto it and skidded it on and put all the bolts in, and now I'm just putting the windows in it now. Fitting them, this one here is a little tight. I got to cut it open a little bigger, but looks good in the wheel well. Nice and centered. And there's my tongue. Sticks out 4 feet. And those windows in the front, they fit nice and flush. They fit really good. There's no gaps around them at all. They look really good. And then I'm going to get a doorway made, a custom door. I'm going to get a plate of aluminum made up and then bend it in the middle and put some foam on the back side covered with some vinyl and contact cemented on with a nice latch and some hinges. And this window here fits good. And then this here has to be obviously cut out right here a little bit for the last window. This is an emergency window. You can actually unlatch it, flip it right out, and climb out if you have to, for whatever reason. And then I'm going to make some aluminum doors for here with hinges. I don't know whether I'll swing it on the edge and put a latch there, or make it flip up or make it flip down. Not exactly sure. But there we go, it's coming. It's starting to sound echoey in here now. But it'll be cool when we get the pop up top and we get some fiberglass cloth and some resin and patch that. I'll make a template, and I'm pretty good with fiberglass because I fixed Corvettes for 35 years. So the cloth and fiberglass doesn't bother me. Yeah, so that's good. Looking good. Looks like it needs to shift a little bit forward on this side. And that'll work out fine because this nose here looks like it's a little out of whack anyways. Okay, so I'm going to take those two pieces and I'm going to marry them into this hole right here so that I can put that window in right there. So I cleaned everything on the back side with acetone, some masking tape, and now I'm going to glue these pieces in place against the masking tape and put some cloth on the outside. And I beveled this area to the point where it's almost knife sharp, so that gives me a nice little seam to butter the fiberglass cloth onto. I'm going to cut some strips, put some rubber gloves on, and put it in that bowl right there and mix up some of this resin here. And I got some hardener in my pocket, and I'm just going to band-aid some sticky, drippy pieces that I dragged through that bowl right there and put them over the seam here. So they're all stuck in position right now, and now I'm going to mix up some fiberglass and put a little band-aid over the seams. And then what I'll do, once I get enough on, then I'll be able to hit it with a grinder again with a flap wheel, and then I'll put a thin skim of Corvette panel adhesive over top of it, and then after that's all cured, I'll go inside and I'll put a nice band on the inside. And it doesn't have to look pretty because it's going to be covered anyways on the inside. So I got my strips cut out and I got my resin poured. I got a brush, I got a putty knife, and I got some gloves I'm going to put on. There we go. Now if I had some tin foil, I could push some tin foil on there. So there we go. I marked it out and I tweaked it a bit with a flat wheel and got it so that it fits in nice and straight and square. And once that hardens right up rock hard, then I'll go over it with some 80 paper on a DA, and then I'll put a skim coat of a Corvette panel adhesive, and I think it's Corvette panel. It could be sheet molded compound, same stuff basically. And then and if I need to, I'll put a little Bondo on it for pinholes or whatever, and then I'll put some primer on it.